right, and welcome back to BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation. Lindsey, top of the afternoon to you. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. You know, Drive Safe Dave right here. I was bragging that I got to meet you in person at the McLeod conference. I know that was a good time. How did you like that McLeod conference?
It was amazing, and there was so much participation and really focusing on elevating the industry with technology. And I love that they brought a lot of nonprofits in who are working to make the trucking industry a better place. And they had a focus on that, and they have a heart to give back.
Yeah, they truly do. They had a location there for donations as well. Love that McLeod conference. That what they stand behind, and it's good to see. You bring up the nonprofits. You see more and more technology kind of working its way through into this industry. And when I think about technology, Drive Safe Dave, I think about that younger group. I don't think about you. You run from technology, but this younger group of drivers, younger group of
They trust
people,
it more. They trust
they
it.
understand it. They're not scared of it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What are your thoughts when it comes to technology and that younger group, Lance?
Honestly, that's what's going to draw them into the industry because they value technology and they want to be in an industry and a career that's technologically forward. And so, if we can let the young generation, Gen Z, know that we are a very technology friendly industry and we find that important inside the truck, outside the truck, under the hood of the truck, and then how we communicate, it's going to be a selling point for them to choose a career in the trucking industry.
Lindsey, I know that you and David Don, you all formed Next Generation back in 2020. Talk to me a little bit. First of all, explain to everybody what Next Gen is, and then also where you began and where you are now. Some of the challenges or positive things you've seen in this couple of years.
Yeah, so we're a grassroots movement. We started off all as volunteers. In fact, I just became the first employee of Next Gen earlier this year. For the last 4 years, I worked for Ryder in sales. I'm out of Louisville, Kentucky. And 6 years prior to that, I did driver staffing. So always had a huge connection to the trucking industry. When I got into it 10 plus years ago, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people, the mission, and what truckers are doing day in and day out. And a few years back, I was at a conference talking to people about the problem, right? We have this glaring problem, and it's the driver shortage, the technician shortage, the aging workforce. Young people aren't seemingly getting into the industry. People are going to college with no real plan. And somebody mentioned Dave's program to me. And Dave and I started talking and dreaming up this idea of creating this nonprofit trade association, calling it the Next Generation in Trucking Association, and really trying to bridge the gap for the trucking industry between education and industry, where we can create trucking programs on the high school level and get young people interested into our industry sooner. So other industries have been doing this for years. Construction programs, there's over 3,000 programs in high schools. Automotive, 1,400 programs in high schools. And there's 1,200 woodworking programs in high schools. There's only 15 truck driver training programs in high schools and 200 diesel programs. And so there's federal funding every year that's on the table going into the trucking industry because we don't have these programs. And so we're trying to create these programs, start becoming a part of getting this federal funding to go towards our industry, and really partnering with industry in our mission and what we're trying to do to raise awareness and to create trucking programs and pathways.
And Lindsey, you're talking to that, and I think it's fantastic. How are you doing it? I know you're talking about creating pathways. How are you doing it? How are you going into these schools? How are you creating these programs?
Yeah, so there's quite a few numbers of ways I could say, but one of the main things we're trying to do is replicate Dave's program across the country. At this point, we've met with over 70 high schools that have come to us because they want to start truck driver training programs. And so we'll meet with them for an hour. We give them the curriculum, all the things that they need to get a program started. And then we act as a support once they are, the wheels have been in motion of getting a program started, and then once they start the program and get it running. We are partnering with all of the diesel tech programs that are currently out there, and really bringing our membership to the table in those programs and getting them involved. And same with supply chain. There are supply chain programs in high schools out there, and we need to be, as an industry, supportive and connected to those programs. Every single one of these programs has an advisory board. So these advisory boards, they have a career fair at least once a year. They have guest speakers come to the schools. The schools can go on field trips. And so we want the industry to get involved so they can be a part of that, be a part of these advisory boards, and hopefully be connecting with their future workforce.
How's the feedback? And you're going into these programs. How's the feedback? I mean, we've spoken to David Dine, and we've heard some from out west. How's it going with you and some of these schools that you're going in, meeting with these advisory boards? How is it working out?
It's great. People are really excited to start trucking programs. They know that trucking is high wage, high skill, high demand. And those are the three things that they're looking for to start programs. And so they know when a young person graduates that there are lots of job opportunities, whether they're in a rural environment or urban. And so getting these programs started is exciting to educators and administrators because they want to provide good jobs for the students that are in their school system that might not be going to college.
And what are you? So I hear that part there, but what are some of the natural challenges from these high schools? Those that say we're just not ready. I mean, what seems to be the reason why a school wouldn't want to get involved or can't get involved?
Well, honestly, it does take funding and it takes time. So a lot of times they might have to apply for a grant. They have to allocate that Perkins funding. It's $1.2 billion a year that they get federally. And so it's just a matter of allocating that Perkins funding to creating this program. And so that's the hurdle. Also, the hurdle of hiring an instructor. So hiring a CDL driver that's got the experience, but that will also be a good teacher. So those are some of the hurdles. But of course, the biggest hurdle is that 18-year-olds can't drive interstate. And so we are a big proponent of the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program and really supporting that initiative through the FMCSA and the Department of Labor. And we're really excited that that program is getting up and running and that carriers have 3,000 spots where they can have an 18 to 20-year-old drive interstate. There's so many layers of red tape, but there are a lot of really good companies that are dedicated to seeing this happen because they believe that if through the proper training that an 18-year-old, and not just any 18-year-old, it's a really particular 18-year-old that will be a good fit with the trucking industry and be safe out there on the road. And so getting those programs started so that we have the data to make sure that an 18-year-old is just as safe as, say, a 25-year-old out on the road.
And you speak to that and you're talking about it, and we sit here and we're talking mostly about interstate trucking when we all know in the industry that a huge portion of the jobs needed out there are the last mile delivery, in-yard delivery, working within the states, trying to get some. I mean, there is such a high demand for any type of individuals out there. I don't think we're at a loss for job opportunities if somebody walks up and has an opportunity or a skill set that they can apply and go into an apprenticeship type program, correct?
Absolutely. There are so many career paths that a young person can come into our industry and start working for an employer. And so whether that is, Class C, Class B, and staying in state, or maybe working for a cement hauler or dump truck, getting that experience, maybe even a yard spotter, getting that experience so they're on the road and practicing their backing and getting a feel for what it's like to become a professional driver. And then hopefully when they're 21, they'll be able to, the sky's the limit for what they want to do and the opportunities that they have.
And Lindsey, when we speak to that, really business needs to be just as involved with you in a partnership in ensuring that the need and the desire and the want to create these opportunities, right? I really think the businesses need to be hand in hand with the education.
Hey, yeah. So for us, we're 100% member supported. So we are hoping that companies join our association so we can work on the mission, which is partnering with these schools and getting more of these programs started. And so we partner with our industry members to get programs started in their backyards at the high school that might be a good fit to start a program. Listen, all these high schools are doing all these trainings. They're doing welding and culinary and cosmetology. Why can't there be a trucking element involved in these? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get trucking represented in high school education and career technical education, so that we can have a future workforce and young people who are excited and passionate getting into our industry. We want to be the first career choice.
Yeah, for certain. Hey, Lindsey, so with that, doesn't that mean that we on the trucking side in our industry, the American, the trucking associations that are out there, the shippers, the receivers, we've got to clean this up a little bit to make this job attractive to one of the younger generations? Because, we spoke about this at the McLeod conference in one of our, in one of the roundtables, and I brought up the question about little things like detention, little things like driver pay. I mean, boy, it's hard to attract somebody to a job that you don't pay them the right salary. You pay them, if they get there and they have to sit 2 or 3 hours at a shipper, receiver, and they're not getting paid. It's hard to justify and to encourage somebody to come work for free, and they just don't like it. And unfortunately, our industry's been so bad over, say, a decade, over the last 30 years. 100%. I know we've gotten better with data and everything, but don't you agree that we've got to make sure that when we talk about the alliance and we talk about membership, that we have a commitment to make our industry better to attract that younger driver as well?
Absolutely. Our jobs need to be attractive, and I see a lot of things moving in the right direction. In fact, I met somebody at that conference who works for 10th Street, and he is creating a database of shippers and wait times. And so where we're going to have all this information, if you're going to go to this shipper, on average, this is how long you're going to wait. And so we need to create things like that so it's more visible in what we're expecting our drivers to do, and make sure that they're paid for what they're doing.
Yes. Lindsey, I think, and also when you talk to driving, and we've been speaking to it specifically, but in this industry, there's so many jobs, not just driving. I mean, this industry is huge. It's robust. It has shipping offices. It has, technicians. It has mechanics. This industry is vast, and it needs people, and we've got to be competitive going into the next generation. You spoke to a technology, and you said that was the way we get it. So can you speak to that specifically, how they're going to utilize that in the classroom?
Yeah. So, I mean, even with Dave's program, or for instance, for diesel tech training in the classroom, all of these programs are very technologically forward, and they're doing online training, but they're also getting that hands-on experience. And I talked to a lot of brokers at the McLeod conference, and why can't young people in high school learn what a broker, what is that, and what do they do, and how do they contribute to the economy and the trucking industry as a whole? And so there are so many jobs within the trucking industry to get into, and young people have no idea that we exist as an industry, minus the fact that during the pandemic, they saw the fact that if their truck drivers don't exist, they're not going to have things on the shelves in the grocery store. Restaurants are not going to be able to have the things that they're wanting to order. And so the supply chain, trucking, it's starting to resonate with young people, but we just, as an industry, have to push that forward and keep the momentum going for the direction that we're already moving in. And there's a lot of great things happening out there. We just need to get everybody behind us in our mission.
Yeah. Hey, Lindsey, I know we only got a couple of minutes left, but I do have a question online here, and I'll just I can read it, but it's asking, can we really trust an 18-year-old? And you know what? I'll go out there to some and say, can we really trust this 30-year-old or 35-year-old? So I think the question is really around, man, how do we is an 18-year-old, and you've been doing it now, are most of these 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, are they ready for that big truck? And how are we going to, as you kind of talked earlier, how are we going to pick out which are ready versus which just aren't ready to go yet?
Well, that's why we're trying to replicate Dave's program, is because it's a well-rounded 1 or 2 year program in high school where they're studying to be a professional truck driver. They're getting that training through driver simulation. And then when they graduate, they get their behind the wheel training at a local community college or driving school. And then past that, they go into an apprenticeship program. It's not every 18-year-old. It's ones that we've identified as good prospects to become drivers. We'll be at the Future Farmers of America convention in Indianapolis in October. There's 60,000 high school students that will be at this convention. And those are a perfect example. A lot of them are driving on the farm already. Yeah. They're working on equipment already on the farm. And so we're going to have a driver simulator there for these students to practice their driving skills. We're also going to have VR headsets that do diesel technician career exploration. So you can put on a VR headset and you can change the oil in a truck. And so we want to get these young people excited about the trucking industry, but we're not going after any 18-year-old. We're going after the right fits. And I would say that probably 20% of your listeners had their CDL at the age of 18 and started driving then, is my guess.
Yeah, you're probably right. Or they were driving it. I mean, most of them, you'll hear them when they call in. I've been driving since I was 14, so you're probably absolutely right.
Yeah, they are driving something with a clutch. But I will tell you, Lindsey, this is great information. If you've got somebody in high school or you know somebody in the high school, how do they reach out and get a hold of you to try to get their high school in the program, to get it activated, so that, because there's not enough of them across this country. So how do they get a hold of you, Lindsey?
Thank you. That is the best question I could get asked, because that is what we live for, to meet with school systems to talk about starting trucking programs. And so if you know of a school system, you have a connection to a principal or a career technical education director or a superintendent, it's all about giving them a call and asking if they would be interested in an hour-long meeting with us to learn about starting a truck driver training program. You can email me, Lindsey@nextgentrucking.org. You can get on our website and send us a form through that. It's nextgentrucking.org. I had a meeting yesterday with a school district in Amarillo, Texas, and we got introduced through them through an employer that's in the area that reached out to them and said, hey, we'd like to see a truck driver training program started in this community. Do you mind meeting with Next Gen Trucking to explore starting a program? And they are super excited on board to start a truck driver training program. And it's morphed into also a supply chain and logistics program. So getting these programs started in schools is dire for our industry. And we love to meet with these schools. And they start these programs all the time. It's just if they're going to start a welding program, or are they going to start a truck driver training program? So let's get more trucking programs started at our local high schools.
All right, Lindsey, I do appreciate it. It is time to go, but I want to make sure that you're also looking at those elementary schools, making sure those kids are getting excited about trucking too. Before you get out of here, we ask all of our guests to state their name, who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that, Lindsey?
I sure can. This is Lindsey Trent with the Next Generation in Trucking Association, and I'm watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
That's right. All right, you got it.
Appreciate you, Lindsey. Great seeing you again, and we'll talk to you, okay?
Thanks.